probably depending on what time I wake up. Like I have a coffee around 30 minutes after I wake up, 15 minutes after I wake up, and then I do a coffee on the way to work. So that's two. Coffee in the morning, like after I get to work. No, the coffee the way to work is similar to the coffee in the morning. So it's like one and a half, and then coffee in the afternoon, like at around 3 or 4.
So that's 4.
Around three, between 3 or 4 a day.
Wow.
Yeah. Yourself?
Just one?
One. And you function.
What do you consider functioning?
You're a functioning, non-caffeinated man.
Yeah, I mean, on Sundays I have a second cup in the morning.
Your Sunday's the weekend. You go crazy, man. No socks.
Well, because Sundays is usually like we're like doing work in the house or hiking, or like I need the energy. Like going to work, like I a little bit like I can be calm. Also, like I interview people for a living.
Okay.
And being calm is definitely helps them be calm.
Does coffee make you not calm?
No. I would say I get very like unsettled.
Jittery?
Unsettled.
Yeah, jittery.
Not jittery. I would just say like I need to go. I need to do the
If
thing.
you have coffee.
Right. But I actually encountered a problem that is like sometimes I'm so calm that the other person is so calm they become very monotone.
They fall asleep.
A little bit. Like their voice is like, and then I did this other thing. And then I asked them at the end, like, how did I do? They're like, you were very calm. Like, I can tell.
Right. And then the plane crashed and we all died except for me.
Exactly.
You have any other questions?
Okay.
So about being calm, right? I think being calm totally fits directly into the podcast that we're reviewing this week.
We are reviewing the Lex Fridman Podcast with Matthew Cox. Lex Fridman has these very, very long conversations with all sorts of different types of guests. Matthew Cox is he was an FBI most wanted con man. What the title say? He stole $55 million in total, I believe.
Yeah.
So we are the CYSTAs are getting together to review this Lex Fridman podcast. And Ben, it seems like you had a lot of notes, so you take it away.
So first of all, the conversation was a 5.5 hour conversation. Like you said, okay, next podcast, you're gonna choose it. I'm like, okay, fine. Lex Fridman, I've heard of him. 5 hours. Boom. So my eyes popped out of my head. But the truth is, Matthew Cox is an incredible salesman. And I think Lex says it a number of times during the interview. He could sell anything, and he's very entertaining, very good storyteller. I enjoyed when Matthew Cox would he's very into like the details. He'll say the story, and he'll say a blue car, and it's like no, it was silver. It was a silver car. Yeah, silver car. Like he needs the details to be exactly right. I think which sometimes is a good storyteller does.
Though it's interesting though because there were a few times where Lex asked them and what like he was in a stuck situation. What did you feel in the situation? He's like, I was scared out of my mind. Like, of course.
Right.
But when he's saying the story, he doesn't seem like he was scared. It just seemed like this was what was happening, and I had to deal with it. It's like, so it's like he's not emotional, but he's like saying he stays that super calm, super level head. It seems like that's what's going on for him, and maybe that's how he makes the sales. It just seems confident.
Right. It's interesting that he says that he was freaking out a number of times, but it can't be that he acted in any freak out kind of way, because otherwise he just wouldn't have existed. He needed to be total problem solving, total solution oriented guy. Nothing. Let me just think about the next thing. Nothing sat with him, but he does say that he was freaking out at times, which is fascinating.
I think he was also pretty young. I think he was young when this whole.
I think it started when he was 29, 30.
Oh,
he started when he was 30,
not young. Not so young.
Which we're not so young, but a fascinating guy. fascinating personality, fascinating guy, and the one of the themes that I'm sure you hit on. One of the big themes that came up in the conversation is snitching,
Yeah.
and that whole the idea of it is it's so fundamental to our culture, because our culture is so like mob culture, mafia culture. Snitching is like the worst thing in the entire world. It's better to like eat your mother's like leg than snitch,
I
But
don't know if
like
is that what
it's
happened to Mom's leg? Is that what happened?
well, I didn't snitch, but but
I think it's also like
it
you've listened to the Lex Fridman podcast before.
not really. I think I've heard of him. I may have heard him speak, but not really like a whole
So
podcast.
he's like so focused on like wanting to. He really believes that he can influence world peace. Like he is so into it. Like he like believes it. Like, but when he introduces a podcast or a person that's like controversial, has to do with like a war or something, he's always talking about how we can all come together as a human race, and we can do good in the world if we're all like if we all treat each other as humans. Like he said in the past, like Vladimir Putin and Zelensky both have senses of humor. Like they both could come together in humor. He's so focused on that, on like how like we can change the world if everyone's just good. And then he's sitting down with this total con man that like totally does. He's like talking about betrayal and like friendship. What are you talking about? That's not how that works. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm not gonna go to jail for 25 years and just be a stand-up man. Like he would go on about that.
Right. Right. It's interesting because in the beginning, he really foreshadowed, Matthew Cox foreshadowed the eventuality of it, because he says originally, I think, not his ex-wife, but one of his friends in the beginning ratted on him. And he felt so betrayed by being told on, but then he foreshadowed that by saying, like, I think he mentioned like later on something was going to change. Like he himself would do it, and later get into the whole story about how he did it. But I'm very fascinated in the whole the concept of snitching, because Lex Fridman, his mentality was mob mentality, mafia mentality. The culture that the mafia has set in for our society, in terms of what's moral, the morals of our society are so much determined by movies, determined by what we've seen, and mafia culture is. And my impression is mafia culture is steeped into our society via movies, via books, not the actual mafia, because we don't know about the actual mafia. Nobody talks about it. That's one of the big parts of the mafia. You can't talk about
Mm.
it. So it's really the way that the movies portray it. And the way they portray it is that being a snitch is the worst thing in the entire world. I think Goodfellas, I think the first line in Goodfellas is something about not being a snitch, which obviously you didn't see, and you're gonna eventually see very very soon, because it's an amazing movie. But Lex Fridman himself was anti-snitching, but he's talking about a world full of corrupt people. They're doing terrible things to each other. People that we're talking about stole millions of dollars, will look to screw the next guy over without blinking, in business and in life, and they've done very very bad things to people. But when it comes to snitching, it seems like Lex himself had an opinion, like maybe that's not such a good thing to do.
I think I'm gonna push back because I don't know if even the mafia. I don't think it was so much like Bitsad snitching, like don't be a snitch. I think it was Bitsad like it's us against them, the coppers, the law, the man. It's us. It's the people against the government, and you don't snitch to the government. You don't get the police involved in a family business. Like you don't snitch on your cousin. You don't snitch on your neighbor to who? To the government. But like I could definitely see. Let's say I don't know the next thing about mafia, but like when right when there's the boss, right, and then there's the boss's people, right. If one of the boss's people does something, this guy is going to tell the boss that that guy did something. He's going to snitch on this guy. Like I don't see that being the case. I just think
Mm.
the mafia They have snitching, just no snitching to the man.
I mean, and that's the term rat. I mean, the difference between a snitch and a rat is a snitch means tattletaling, and which is acceptable within the family. But being a rat means that you're now telling the government, the police, the other bodies that's
Possibly, I don't
unacceptable.
know.
I hear that. I hear that differentiation. But in it, I was thinking about it myself, like the concept of snitching. Is it intrinsically, is it a moral intrinsically? Is there something wrong with snitching in itself? We're talking about people who've committed terrible acts, terrible things. And everybody, the whole incentive structure for every person is to just think about themselves. And numerous times in the whole Matthew Cox story, he wasn't caught because people only consider themselves. They didn't want to, they needed to just recover their money. They recovered the money. Now they were able to not call the FBI, not get involved because they got the money, they got what they needed. The different friendships that he had, it was just selfish. What is good for me? So once that world is true and that exists, so then why is snitching in itself or ratting in itself problematic? Meaning, why is being a rat in this world worse than committing tremendous crimes?
I don't understand that last one.
Meaning, originally in the story, Matthew was looking at it as people snitched on me, and he was appalled by it. But he was lying and stealing from many, many people, and that's not a problem. He was able to live with himself with that. But when it came to snitching and ratting, in the beginning at least, it was no way.
Meaning,
and a lot of the conversations circled around that.
Meaning, I don't think Matthew Cox is the great moralist, meaning he's upset because they got him. So, like, he's saying that he doesn't like snitching because the snitching got him. But also,
and Matthew, how about Lex? Lex himself, what was his position about snitching? What's your position about snitching?
I'd say like this. I don't think I could be an absolutist, right? Because in the end of the day, if someone's going to kill me or if someone's going to expect me to snitch, I'm going to snitch. Like, I value my life more than I value my loyalty to others. So I wouldn't say I'm an absolutist. Like, I'm going to die on the stake unless I snitch.
Okay, let's say you'll get 7 years less in prison for snitching.
So then we can talk degrees. I'll take 2. I'll take 2 years, I think.
2 years for snitching? Meaning is snitching specifically wrong?
I think.
But why not for 30 days?
No.
Why not snitch to get 30 days off?
Joke, meaning, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what I would be like in a situation. It really depends. Like, it depends like what's going on. I would assume it's by degrees. Are you a snitch absolutist? Like, you would never snitch no matter what?
I don't know. I don't look at snitching as being worse than other crimes.
Why is it?
If a person is going to be,
why is it a? Why would it be?
Meaning the idea of betrayal. The idea of betrayal. I mean, there's a code amongst people. That's the question. Is there a code amongst people or not? Like in civilization, There's a code amongst people. There's a certain unspoken rule in how we act towards others. In the criminal world, is there a code?
There is a code that this is very Randian. I'm going to bring her in. There is a code amongst people that drives society and drives growth, and that is selfishness. We are particularly out for our betterment. Now, in a society that's growing, the way that looks is I'm selfish, and that's why I'm going to hire the best engineer. And I'm going to make sure that he gets compensated because I want the best results, so I have to make sure that he's happy, right? So that's the selfishness that allows society to grow. In the criminal world, where the investment is society breaking down the society, it doesn't grow society, it breaks down society. It's taking the money from that guy so that it's gathering money into one place. In that society, there's selfishness as well. It's just that it's like in the reverse. It's the negative. Instead of I'm going to make sure this guy's happy, I'm going to make sure this guy's miserable because that allows me to grow. And that is a selfishness as well. And if it cut right, and when I snitch, I make that guy miserable so that I can live another day. I'd say there is a code and it's selfishness.
It is selfishness. I mean, so therefore, if you're involved in any criminal enterprise, the idea that someone will snitch on you for his own selfish benefit is part of the game. It's like it's
Correct.
not personal, it's
Incorrect.
business. And snitching is included in that. And ratting is included in that. Now, I think in a civil society, not a criminal society, there is something about there's a moral there. You want to say the Randian, you want to say that there's a selfishness that if I tell on you, you're going to tell on me.
Meaning if
So
I make you
therefore,
miserable, then I can't gain from you. The selfishness of the Rand world is that when I am selfish, I want you to gain, I want you to do well because then I will do well. But actually,
right.
so I was having this thought when I was listening. I mom just forgot it. It was. I'm sorry. What were we just talking?
No, so about in terms of the moral, is there a morality to selfishness? Is there a morality to more being a snitch? And in the criminal world, there it's about selfishness, about your own personal gain, and you'll snitch on the next person just as simple as you'll do, because it's not personal, it's business, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But okay, but let's say in society itself, outside of the Randian idea, is there a moralistic position to not snitch, to not be a rat, to be honorable towards others? If somebody gives you information, they give you a secret, is there an honor to keeping that secret?
There's honor. I don't think that it's honor. I think it's out of selfishness. I will keep the secret out of selfishness.
Because otherwise they're never going to trust me again.
But that's the thing. I'm not. It's a little bit of a subtle point. It's not that you're not going to trust me. It's that I want you to do well. I want you to do well. And when you say a secret to me, I'm going to keep that secret. I'm not going to tell others, because if others know, then you won't do well. And if you don't do well, then I won't do well. That's meaning it's not like I want you to trust me. It's if you're doing well, I'm doing well. So it's all about the selfishness. It's all about me, it's weird. Like whatever Rand talks about it. I think was it in Fountainhead there was like a huge conversation about selfishness. Probably also an Atlas Shrugged, but it was like what is she? Altruism. And she had a whole conversation about altruism, and like she argues the purest form of altruism is doing what's good for others so that you can gain. Because when you realize that the focus
right.
is on you gaining, then you're gonna like double time want others to do better. Meaning you're gonna be more altruistic. You're gonna be more doing better for others, because when others are doing better, then you're gonna even do even better. So that's
right.
The word selfishness got sort of lost in
that's
like
how she views it. Right.
the immoral part of selfishness, and like there's lost in that subtle point. I think. I have a question. Were you able to keep up with the scams when he was describing all the scams?
No.
Did you keep up?
No. A lot of because you have to be in that world. You have to know the codes and the different paperwork, and it was enjoyable to listen to. It's like listening to, you listen to the geniuses debate. I don't understand half the words they're saying. It sounds good.
So it's funny because after I listened to the podcast, like I sent them to a bunch of brokers, like real estate brokers, like they'd understand all the language and they would like really appreciate the podcast.
They enjoyed it.
But then I was thinking, like, I don't know, am I giving them ideas?
This is listen. At this point, I don't know. At this point, the FBI has learned all the tricks from Matthew Cox, so they have to look for another angle. This is my first Lex Fridman podcast. I tell you, one of the things that was different about him was there are no commercial breaks, which is interesting. That he says it's all in the show notes and look there for advertisements, which I've not seen before. Even Joe Rogan, he inserts it at different times. That's one thing. He also allows
it's part of his project to save the world, because he's having in his mind he's having he's Mesiras Nefesh for these conversations. Like this is his work in this world, is to have these conversations.
I hope he's making money too. No, the other part is that his conversations, it seems, are even longer than Joe Rogan conversations. Now, I don't know how often he has them. Joe Rogan has them every day. I don't know how often he has them, but it was a really fun conversation. He let the person talk. He only chimed in here and there just to get clarification and a couple tangents just to crystallize it and maybe ask the question to further along the conversation. But he really let the guest speak.
And
Now this guest is a
also
great
having
speaker,
his own process,
so
meaning Lex Fridman had his own process during the interview as well. When he like had to at a certain point he paused and like felt like he had to meditate on that. Like, oh, I need to think about that. Like it's because
right.
whatever. I could go on and on about Lex Fridman. Like, he meditates before the podcast. He meditates after the podcast. Like, he does a workout. Like, he's like really,
Right.
it's a little bit like a moment's of religion for him.
Right. And then he puts on the black suit and black tie. He's ready to go.
All right. Thank you, Ben.
Alrighty.
Good to see you. Till next time.
All right. Great
Check out
seeing
the
you again.
podcast. Lex Fridman, Matthew Cox. Check it out.